Hey, well, welcome to the Dream Labs. Dr. Contrast Live here. I just thought I'd take a quick moment and hopefully just take a second here in an interview or let you be aware of the fact that I'm just going to go through a series of exercises today that I often really enjoy doing, and that is sometimes we go through the product of the streams of putting a subject matter together, and it's going to be a content of this variety. But I think this one go around, I'm just going to sit back and pull back on just some little drawing exercises, just sketches to kind of loosen up and do some free form material, working with, again, some Canson paper, Prismacolor pencil, a little bit of marker added, just going through some form studies. Nothing really in mind here, just practice time and just sketches. Put some ideas down and get some form and surface together. So let's take a look at what we've got here. Let's kind of come back in here. We'll just start rolling through this thing. Just start very lightly, just going through some shapes. Open these guys up just a bit. Just forms. There's one. Just kind of go through these guys very rapidly. And just nice and loosely, just kind of put some pieces together here just to kind of generate some shape and form here, some substance. See what we come up with here. And come back and hit some value with this stuff later on and put a little more content into these guys. Just a nice peek at what might be happening with some of these shapes. Just open them up. Just, again, just free form objects in terms of just putting together some substance. Again, it's good practice time all the way around. So let's kind of come back in through here. There we go, another little study there. Come back in just really quick pencil sketches first, then we'll come back and take a look at what might be taking place, some additional little forms here. Just practice. combination of little concept sketches here, and let's just put a little bit of tone to these guys and see what we come up with here. Just a little bit of sketch rendering here. Get some value marker in these guys and just put them together here. Little concept sketches. Let's see what we come up with here. Notice this thing will go down nice and deep. It comes back into place here, really tones in quickly, and then it dries very quickly in terms of what you're trying to shoot for here. Just nice and easy, just little form studies here, just a little bit of saturation in place. Let's put a little bit of my contrast in here. Real loose little sketches. Again, just practice time getting some forms down. We're not really any subject matter involved here, just a practice time for little sketch rendering exercises. Really makes a huge difference. Let's put a little bit of highlight back into these guys, just real form, real fat. Let's go back here with a little bit more content and some of this marker work here. Let's get a little bit more substance in it. That's got more content to it. That's great. There we go, just some little shapes. Come back in here, put a little bit of hot spot on these guys. Yeah, and a neat little, just a little form study, just kind of fun stuff. That just there's really something developing a shape here in terms of, is it round, is it more rectangular, what kind of surface are we going to deal with here? Just keeping it nice and fluid and loose, and they're coming back in and just putting a little bit of stain in these guys. It really begins to help organize what the shapes are doing. Let's kind of go back in and get this guy. Just a whole series of these. Lock it in very quickly. A little escape underneath this thing, just kind of give it a setting. See what we come up with here. Being real loose and gesturally with just getting some of the basic forms down first. And coming back in with a little bit more stain to it here. Let's put more content in this guy here. There we are. Put a bit of darker contrast in here just to kind of get some substance put together. Just inventing forms as we go. Nothing's really kind of settled in terms of complete shapes. They're not architectural. They're just form studies, just looking at ways to break up elements, how to deal with certain shapes. Put a little bit of vocabulary together for them. And just generating shape and just interesting little forms here as we go down the line here. There we are. There's two. Let's come back in. I'm going to switch gears here just for a second to get a little more content with these guys as we go down the line here. Let's get this guy a little deep, some more accent. That's better. Now a little bit of highlight in here, and we'll carry on. Bit of color in it, give a little bit of reference. A little bit sharper definition in some of these forms here. And again, there's phase number two. I mean, look how simple those shapes are, but at the same time, it can give you a really good idea of how to begin to deal with certain forms and elements and so forth, and begin to push some really interesting content in terms of just looking for sketches, just practice time looking form, shape, color, where to place emphasis, where to leave the paper alone, and so on. Just interesting things to deal with here as we go. Let me sharpen this guy up a little bit here. Let's do the same thing here. Let's get a little more stain work on this guy here. There's some basic element being placed in contention there. Let me switch gears and go to another 5 series here to work with. Hopefully they'll be a little deeper. Yeah, this might be workout gal. There we go. Basic shape, a little bit of some substance in this guy. Go back to a little bit more stain in this guy. There we are. Some interesting little form settings. You're just going through some basic shapes and getting it all put together here for us. Here, let's put a little bit of 3 in this thing now. Stain this guy back just a bit. Just exercises. Oftentimes I'll go through exercises like this just to kind of explore shape and form and not really any subject matter. So, and it's really an interesting process because it doesn't lock you into. What helps me in any case, something like this, is it gets you out of the habit of favorite shapes and so forth. You're exploring different things, making a huge difference in how things are going to come together and how to read certain shapes, how to leave things alone, where to place emphasis, where to kind of come back in and sing it a little bit, and where to leave things alone. More emphasis here. Let's go back in a little bit more content back here. Get it in the shadow. And nothing really definitive here, just again, sort of be redundant, but just looking at how to really begin to develop. It's a lot of interesting shape and form, surfaces, rounds, sharps, you name it. So a lot of neat stuff here. I'm just going to put a bit of tone in this guy. Add a little bit of definition back here. And last but not least, a little sharper definition here will help. Oh, pardon me. Let's get this back in form here. We'll set the scale, kind of give it some idea, maybe a residence of some sort, or some sort of a tower. Interesting how it all begins to just, again, so much fun to be able to just go back and say, I'm not really interested in getting a thing here. I'm interested in practicing surface and shape and how it all begins to affect one thing you see and another thing you might see. So let's go back in here and we'll just carry on with some additional shaping here. And we'll come back in and get some really light tones. Put a little more content into this thing now. A little sharper with it. Again, just working with some very quick marker, Prismacolor pencil, just generating sketches. Familiarizing myself with some idea content here just for future reference, shape development, surface work, you name it. Just a lot of neat stuff here. Not a subject matter being really touted, just sketches. Sometimes ideas like this begin to just generate certain things. You start to see certain things that become a little bit more. You can take some of these things, for example, for future reference into some like ship development, aircraft design, transportation design, looking at certain things. Sometimes it's just good to get away from all the maddening crowd of being formal with it and having some fun with it. And boy, all of a sudden things begin to change very rapidly. Change in a positive way, I think. Let's get a little more content down and through here. Some contour here. Just going to give it a setting. Very painterly approach. Just neat stuff going on here. Let's go back here and put a bit of content in it now. Yeah, just really kind of spooky looking stuff here. It's just neat how it all, you let your imagination go, not worry about being programmed or setting things in, being conscious of, for example, this has to look like this, and this is a certain definition or shape to it. For example, we just go back in and draw a little bit more. Pardon me as I kind of ramble on here. A little deeper with some of that. That's offset that. That's kind of interesting there, the little shape. Let's put the right content in this guy. Yeah, just spooky little things that kind of go through the shape of the studies here. And we'll add a bit of color to this guy too. Let's see what happens here. On the shadow side underneath. And again, a little bit of atmosphere behind it. Grab this pencil, a little more drawing definition here. And there's a little series of studies, just again exploring shape, developing some surface work, and just sketches, ideas of how to place down form and shape and so forth, and how to work with some things for future reference. They can come in very, very handy. I add a little bit of color here so it doesn't feel like the Lonesome Man. Let's put a little bit of tone in this thing. And that should do it. Let me just sign this guy. We'll move on to another page here as we go. Well, let's see. Let's kind of move on here with that. And there's phase one. So again, the purpose of today's stream was not to get into a locked subject matter. For example, I'm going to do a subject matter. I'm just looking at, there are days when I'll just go through a time cycle, maybe an hour's worth of sketches where I just draw. Putting form together, such as these. There are spherical forms, there are hard edges, there are certain contours that I'm working with just to get a feel for what does the comet look like. What am I going to really begin to generate here? How does it feel? What does it look like? What kind of emphasis? Where do I leave the paper? All these little elements that make the creative process so intriguing and demanding, for example. And it's a really great challenge as far as I'm concerned. It's just a lot of fun to deal with. There's not a lot of mystery involved. It's almost like a random expression. It looks like this, and you add this to it, then you add that to it, then it changes the circumstance, and you begin to define certain things. It also does a very interesting thing as well. It opens up a lot of clues as to where to place emphasis. Where do you want to really sell? Where do you want to put the color? What kind of line work are you dealing with? And again, all that is really, to me, very, very critical and necessary, especially when you're developing shape and surface and form for any given subject matter. Whether architecture, product design, landscape architecture, transportation design, it all applies. So let's put that aside for a moment. We'll start another sketch here, another series. Just going to go through this guy. Let me sharpen this stick up and we'll get out of here. Just shapes. Again, a little bit of tone to these guys. Let's see, there's a basic tone started here. Let's go back in and get a little more contour to this thing. Put some guts in it. Let's go back and get a little more scrub in these beauties. just getting some shape started here. Let's go back in, add a little bit more contrast to this thing. Again, just a simple little value study here in terms of putting form together. Here we are. We'll come back in and put a little more content in this guy now. It's a little hot spot. Bring the surfaces up just a touch. Again, today's purpose, really exploring how to deal with just a variety of surfaces and shapes and forms and what they do and how they handle themselves under certain conditions of light and form, etc. Let's get a little more definition in this guy here. That's a little better. Let's get some dark contrast in here. And some little minor tail lines, and it's an interesting little concept here of just, again, surfaces and shapes. Giving it a bit of a setting or a ground. Just really quick little expressive sketches here. A little bit of tone to this guy. Hey, MacJoe82, how are you? Thanks very much for following along here. Just a lot of fun to deal with this stuff here. I hope you're having an enjoyable time here. This has really been an adventure in terms of just, again, putting shapes and surfaces together. And again, thank you so much for joining us here, MacJoe. Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much. It's a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoy I don't know if you saw the first series here or not, but there was the first pass we did. And again, the real purpose today, MacJoe, is to just really understand sometimes it's just nice to pull back and just do some sketches about freeform materials and so forth. And as I said earlier in my stream, The reason this is done is because it's kind of getting into the rhythm of making some neat changes in terms of when you go to architecture, product design, or transportation design. All these surfaces and shapes have a function. I'm just going through an exercise here today in terms of putting together pieces that might help to kind of clarify some things. And as I said before, I just checked your website. I'll check out here too. Yeah, hey, very good. Thanks very much, Mac Joe. I hope you're enjoying the session, and thanks for joining me here. Let me carry along here with these sketches, and we'll put a little bit of background in this, guys. Let's see what we got here. Let's go back in through here. Put a little bit of tone in behind it, give it a little bit of a setting. Just let it taper off a bit here, and a little bit more content in here. And there we are. Let's go back here. Let's kind of generate again here. Again, real quick pencil sketch. And come right along here. Just put a little bit of tone in this guy, and it's going to just stain some things in with the Copic. I'm working with a Copic marker and Prismacolor pencil on tone paper, and a little bit of color added, and that's about it, gang. So let's kind of put some substance into this stuff here. Again, real fluid, real quick. Just exploring ideas. Let's kind of change content here. Go a little deeper with the number 5 cool gray. Get a little more impact on some of these shapes. See where that's going to lead us. There's enough content there, kind of moves things around a little bit. Impressive background. Glad to see you folks liking it. Yeah, hey, very good. Mac Joe, where are you from? Where are you calling in from or tuning in from? I'm just curious to see where your location is. Thanks so much for joining us today. This has really been kind of cool. And very nice of you to make comment on my work as well. I really much appreciate that. Oh, you're in Belgium. My goodness. Thank you so much for tuning in. Great stuff. I'm so glad that you're joining us. I've had a lot of individuals come over from Europe, and it's been really a real treat for me to kind of see what the audience range is here. So thanks again, Mac Joe. Hope you're enjoying this. Let's go back in a little bit of content. Let's get a little bit of contrast in these guys now. Put that in here. Now we're just going to come back and begin to blend some of these forms together. Put a concept in here. Color and tone. Now, first of all, put a highlight on top of these shapes. Now a little bit of tone. Let's have a little fun with this thing just for what it's worth here. Pardon me as I reach into the archives. Reflect a little bit of light into this thing. Again, put a bit of background in it. Here we go. Some pretty neat stuff here. There's this, I like the sci-fi bad with those sketches. Well, yeah, that's what we're trying to get at here. I think the sci-fi piece. I always look for cool art streams. Just a pleasure to watch good artists do their thing. Yeah, thanks very much, Mac Joe. It's I think that you brought up an interesting point about the sci-fi piece. I've done a lot of work for Twitch, for example, and do a lot of Star Citizen sketch running work. As a matter of fact, go back and look at some of the things I've got on my website and some of the things I've got on YouTube. There's a lot of G12 series work, and there's a lot of interplanetary spaceship materials. I'm working on a project now called the Dragonfly for Star Citizen, doing a new ship design. So it's going to be a lot of fun to see what happens with that stuff there. So it's really interesting material in terms of what to work with. So thank you so much for pointing that out. The sci-fi side of it is really interesting how it all puts together here. Let's kind of go back here. Let me sign this guy. So there's two. Let's go after one more piece here. Let's have some fun with this guy. Let's just kind of change gears. A little more geometric here. Just lay in a sketch. Just going to knock out some surface here, Eric. Knock out some of the negative space here first. There we go. Just blocking in some definite connectors here. Let's take this thing for what it's worth. It's got a little bit sharper stick in this beauty here. Let's put a little bit of tone to this thing. A little more tone in this thing, a little more content to it. Oh, also you're working in the video game industry too. I guess you'll fit right in the switch. Add a little bit of detail here. Get this almost cathedral-like look to this thing. Start putting a little detail back into this, a little more interest to it. Let's kind of sneak that through. Just going to sneak that in a little bit. Again, just try to get the block in some very basic shapes. This is much more crystalline-like approach to the process here. So let's get a little bit of some impact in this thing now. Yeah, a little more tone to it. Come back to a number 3 gray. Just got to stain some things in here. And let's do a little bit of definition work here. Hey, Shadowkin, how are you? Good to have you on board there, Doctor. Just doing some exploratory little sketch work. Just sketches. Every now and then it's just nice to back up a little bit and just do some form studies here and go through a whole series of little empire works. Thanks, man. Glad to be here. Hey, how are you? Hey, unbelievable. Looking good there, gang. Nice stuff. Thank you. Really appreciate it. There you are. There's just a little composition start here about where we are with this guy. Let's put a little bit of highlight in this thing now. And let's see, Mac Joe, are you still there? Hope you're enjoying this thing. And any commentary at all about what you're seeing here, other than the fact that it's a lot of sci-fi work and exploratory sketch work and the like. Let's kind of put a little bit of hot spot back in this thing now. Ben, Northern Lights. Hey, how are you, Ben? Thank you very much for joining forces here. Let's put a bit of content in this thing now, a little bit of tone. Oh, pardon me as I got to straighten this thing up a little bit. Just some series of just forms, just looking at sketches. One more pass with this number 5 gray. It's going to put a little more tone in this thing. Kind of offset it a bit. Let's rub in some more tone. A little bit of impact one to the other. Nice thing about this marker stuff is when you work with it, such as this, you can really see an awful lot of interesting things going on in terms of how when you lay it down, when you lay it down, it gets really, really dark. Then it kind of melts back, excuse me, and lightens up as you go through it. So it's kind of a lot of fun. And I'm trying to get his name out there. Any help is welcome. He really is incredible. No, I've just been very fortunate. So thanks very much, gang. Very cool. Thanks for being. Let us know you found it. Okay, let's see. I just saw your Instagram. This stuff is on. Oh, hey, thank you very much, Ben. Really appreciate it. Stuff is on not another level. I've been very fortunate to just do a lot of neat things over my course of time here. So, thanks very much, Ben. Where about you from, Ben? Just on a quick question. Where you tuning in from? I'm just curious. Really nice to know what the audience is coming from. If you're still there, Denver. How about that? Very cool. How's the weather out there? Nice. Very cool. Denver, Colorado. Nice. I'll just kind of finish this guy up here and give us a little bit of sequence here as to what we're working with. A bit of a comp piece here. Now let's put a bit of tone in this thing. Just imagining what might take place, for example, when you start to look at certain shapes and forms and how they begin to work with one another. This is just an exercise today in putting surface and shape together. Nothing really planned in terms of being a product or an element. It's just practice time for just putting shape together. An area interesting. As I said earlier in the stream too, oftentimes you'll take stuff like this and begin to look at the fact that, boy, a lot of times this thing will come in handy when you start to do, for example, things like product design, architecture, interior space. It all applies. Sometimes just exploring certain shapes makes a huge difference. Pretty complicated piece here, so thanks for your patience. Just want to get a lot of this almost geometric diamond-like form just coming out of nowhere in terms of, let's put a bit of background in here too. A bit more tone on the surface here. Just let the marker do the work for you. That's what I've always stated. Just keep it nice and simple. Let me sharpen the stick again here, guys. We'll wrap this beauty up. little dome off in the distance. More composition piece here. Maybe a little observation deck of some sort. Wrapping it all up here, guys. Really appreciate your patience here. I hope this has been helpful of some sort. Last but not least, let's just sign this guy. And there we are, just a nice series of sketches on just sketches. Nothing more, nothing less, just trying to put some pieces together based on form, shapes, and studies and so forth. Any pieces from the Friday show to tease today? Yeah, a couple maybe. Just kind of let the cat out of the bag here a little bit. Bender's fine. People appreciate fine spirits in Colorado. Largest Scotch collection in the States in Denver. Yeah, there might be a couple of things I want to show you, Shadow. I think I don't want to tip my hand too much. I was going to spend some time tomorrow with you in studio going through that, so if you don't mind, we're just going to hold back on that guy just to kind of tip our scales here a little bit for tomorrow's presentation. So something a pastime. Let's see, any other comments there? Let me go back and review where we are here. We started with a series of sketches. So we just opened up the program with this. And again, I want to just repeat what the whole purpose was today. Let me move this over so we can see it a little bit better. Get my stuff out of the way. What we've done here is just collected a series of what I refer to as just sketches. And the reason for that is very simple, that I just want to explore how to go through certain things, for example, not with a subject matter at hand, but just going through shape and form and surface work, and a little bit of color added and some hopefully dynamic direction in terms of color. They understand what begins to happen with certain things. Just interesting how it all begins to come together with going through spherical shapes, rectangular form, a little bit some dart work, and some ovoidal shapes. Again, same thing here. Just putting surfaces together. They're not really architectural. They're not really any product based. They're just what I refer to as just sketches, practice time. And then laying down what that really helps me to do, for example, hopefully for you as well, when you go through a lot of randomness and just laying down a shape and content and so forth, what that really helps to do is open up the doors and the windows for how do you apply this stuff to product design? How do you apply it to transportation, environmental design, and so on? Extremely invaluable. So that's the first plate I started with, just to kind of open up and loosen up a little bit. Then I went to phase 2. A couple of little thumbnail sketches again. Let me open those up just a bit here. Looking at the same set of circumstances. Again, exploring just simple things, like, for example, Ben, yeah, thanks very much, Ben. I much appreciate it. It's opening up the doors of just being creative in terms of what happens if you invert the delta form, what happens if you combine it with a certain, like a cylindrical shape. It's the what I refer to as the fascination of working with, for example, the geometric solids. What do they do for you? How do you begin to tell a story? And then etc. And the information and process walkthrough. Yeah, this is what's really interesting to me, how to walk it through. I always really feel very subjective in terms of you go through a series of sketches, but the public needs to, individuals who are watching, need to know how things begin to happen and why you're using things that you are using. So again, this exercise today, I'm sorry again to be redundant, it was no real subject matter informed. Oftentimes I'll just spend a day when I do nothing on tone paper or bond paper and just do just sketches. It might be just random shapes, it might be speed forms, it could be form surfaces, working with a certain element or elements, pardon me, and then what that opens up are doors of just how to apply things later on. So I keep an inventory of when we go through and begin to utilize them as we go back in and develop the surfaces. And the last one we did here, as you just witnessed, was more of a geometric, almost like a cathedral type approach to just some, again, sort of hard edges and how to break up the forms and how to work with it. So all that to say, gang, that thanks so much for joining me today here. It's a real pleasure to work with you and to have you on board. And cannot thank you enough for spending the time with this old guy, just kind of going through some sketches. This is the first play. This is fun stuff. I mean, I got to be honest with you, this is fun stuff. It's to me, it's never been work. It's never been a labor. It's always been a labor of love for me. And there's something about drawing that is just magical. And I think the process to me of revealing what can happen in certain situations, even when you make great accidents, there's a lot of accidents in here. But I've always stated this, and I think it's so true, that don't be afraid to make mistakes, because that's where the miracles live. So oftentimes, from my background in GM design staff, we go through certain surfaces and work, and some of the things you put down on paper that look really ridiculous, but they're accidental, but they really begin to apply in certain areas for product design and so forth. So thank you so much. And while I'm at it here too, those of you like, for example, Ben and Joe, please feel free to visit my website at drcontrast.com. I've got a real yoga man, want to become a famous by yeah. I guess we just got zipped there with a bot guy. I guess I'm not sure. Thanks very much. So please feel free to, those of you attending today who've just joined in, thank you so much for joining and following me. But please take a moment to look at, for example, is it's your use of geometry. Well, I really appreciate that, Mac Joe. The geometry is very important. That's the whole idea of the solids. At some point in time, future reference, I'm going to go back into an exercise of what the geometric solids are, how to work with them, how to begin to form them, to develop new things in terms of developing ideas. And anybody, thanks for all the follows. It's really been great. So please feel free to, Mac, Joe, and Ben, please feel free to visit my website at drcontrast.com. There's a whole series of lesson forms. There are 9 lessons, very economical. Takes you from perspective all the way through to surface work, light source, geometrics, etc., language of line, a lot of different things really going on at the same time. So please feel free to visit that. And last but not least, if I've said something right here today, please tell me. Drop me a note at my email address at jim@drcontrast.com. Be more than happy to receive some things and begin to work with you on certain elements. It'd be fun. If you have things that you want me to work on, I'd be more than happy to work with you on that. And again, so appreciate Mac, Joe, and Ben for following here today. Just interesting to have you guys on board, and thank you. One from Denver and one from Belgium. Really, I'm very humbled by that. So thank you for your very kind patience in tuning in here today. And believe me, I sincerely respect your time in doing so. And it's been enjoyable to chat with you here today. So feel free to, again, join me at drcontrast.com. My Discord is all up on the screen here. So yeah, thanks, Mac, Joe. I'll be tuning in tomorrow. Tune in tomorrow, for example, at 4 o'clock. We're going to open up, as I said earlier in the beginning of the program, we're doing some work on a new spaceship or new a battleship or maybe a defender process called the Dragonfly. And it's really going to be a lot of fun to work with. We're doing something for Star Citizen to try to get a new ship invented. We're doing some really neat exploratory sketches on some biomimicry. So feel free to join us, Mac, Joe, and Ben. Hope you can join us at 4 o'clock. And Shadow, we're just going to hold the cards back tomorrow. We're going to knock them dead with some really cool concepts since last Friday night's presentation. Very interesting for a Shadow show. I'm really pleased to be a part of the process with my wingman, Shadow. He's a great guy to work with, and we're having a lot of fun with this thing. So last but not least, as I tune out here, guys, today, I really appreciate, again, your time spent here working with me and watching me go through the process here of just sketches. And last but not least, I've always stated this when I close my stream, and I really sincerely believe it. Never forget to remember to dare to be great, because you are. I really thank you for the time. I hope you'll join us tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Look forward to having you on board. And to those of you again like Joe, Mac, Joe, and Ben, thanks so much for following me today, and I much appreciate it. And last but not least, if you don't mind, pass along the word that I'm on Twitch. I really want to build my audience, because I think it's pretty unique in terms of where the art form is. There's not a lot of industrial design work being done on the art stream from Twitch. But please pass the word along to your friends, whomever might be interested. And again, thank you so much for joining forces. Take care, all the very best, and don't forget, dare to be great, because you are. Thank you. Have a great day. See you tomorrow at 4.